So this month, we are going to be talking about Elementor versus the block editor for writing blog posts. It's actually quite a common topic. Stefan. So I'm just keeping an eye on the participants and stuff as well, because it's just me today. Okay, so we try and start on time, do some welcome introductions, some new stuff that's in Elementor, and then we'll kick off for today's topic and then a Q&A at the end. We should have some time for that. Here we are. Here's the organizers. I'm the only one here today. So I'm Will Brown. I help organize this meetup and also the WordPress Sydney meetup. I'm also currently Vice President of Linux Australia, which is the open body for all the open source communities in Australia. So we've also got John, Julia, and Morris, who just can't be here this month. They send their apologies. We do have a code of conduct. I'll copy the link address and post it down here. Basically, everyone should be respectful. I'm sure we can all manage that today. And I'm going to introduce myself. I am Will. I am a back-end developer. I call myself a back-end developer. So I generally write code. I work with plugins. I work with automation as well. I've been using WordPress since 2006. So I know it very, very well. It's my go-to tool. Not so good at the front-end stuff. So JavaScript and design. JavaScript I'm okay with. Design, yeah, I tend to farm that to somebody else who actually knows what they're doing within the visual element. But Elementor does help to put sites together, especially if you're a non-designer. I am going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to hand over. If anyone wants to jump in and introduce themselves, just tell me who you are and what you do briefly, and then we'll jump back in.
I'm not muted, so I might as well jump straight in. Yeah, I'm retired. I used to be a university lecturer, and I built a few websites when I first came to Sydney for some companies, and sort of just play around a little bit. I just started a programming course today. That's what you can do when you're retired. You can do the things that you couldn't do when you were younger. So got to keep the brain alive. But yeah, I've always enjoyed the things that Will does and all the people he's involved with. Missed a few things this year. I had to work a couple of days when you had things on in town. So thought I'd jump in on this one and see where it goes.
That's good to have you on board, Bob.
Thank you. Everybody else is shy, Will.
That's okay.
I can jump in.
There they go. They've all logged in now.
All right, just making sure I was hydrated. My name's Murray, based in Melbourne, and I'm a bit of an all over the place guy. I sometimes think of myself as putty. I'm just being stuck in all the gaps. And I've been working in front end, back end, sideways, whichever way it tends to go. They started off doing programming back in the mid 80s, actually. Pretty scary with all QBasic. I mean, what is it? Basic and Pascal and Logo and all the fun stuff. And basically migrated across to web, probably around about back in 1998, I think it was, 97. And then got involved with WordPress in about 2012 or 2013, something like that. And then got involved with page builders after giving up on trying to build my own themes all the time and having to deal with all the nightmares with all of the security and accessibility. And WordPress was good with helping there, and then moved across into Elementor and Divi, and I've been looking at Oxygen recently and lots of other really cool stuff. So yeah. And CSS, love my CSS. So there we go.
Great intro, Murray.
I'll jump in. Yeah, I'm Paul. I've got a background of about 30 years in development and sysadmin. So yeah, and I retired about 5 years ago and started my own web business. So I decided to do the full stack. So I do my own hosting from Amazon Web Services all the way through to design, with Elementor Page Builder. So yeah, I do a bit of everything as well. So yeah, and of course, being a small business person, running your own business is always a challenge. So yeah.
I think you're in good company, Paul. I think we've all been there. Okay, let's jump in. I'll share my slides again. There we go. So a little bit of updates this month. So Elementor released version 3.12 in both the free and the pro. There's two new things that have come with the free version. The one is the user interface color scheme change. So if you've logged into Elementor in the last couple of weeks, you'll notice it's black and white interface now. So it's very kind of minimalist, very kind of modern interface. If you go into the Elementor global Facebook group, there is a post that's pinned. You can provide your feedback, whether you like it or not, or all different areas. There's quite a lively debate going on. Of course, anything that ever changes always, is guaranteed a lively debate. But if you want to put your 10 cents worth, you find the global Elementor Facebook group, and that post is pinned on the top of the group, so you'll be able to add your feedback to the UI. And the developers are there, they're listening, which is good. The other thing is there's a new alpha experiment in the free version. So if you go into the experiments and click on it, it actually has an editor top bar. So pretty much the same as WordPress, and they've got their admin bar. Elementor's now got this top bar. And the idea is to put all these useful things there, and eventually you'll be able to customize it yourself. But you'll see the navigation icon will be in there. There's a mobile responsive stuff up there, so you can click between your desktop, your tablet, and your mobile really, really quickly. And so it's going to have useful stuff like that. And again, it's in alpha, so it's going to change quite dramatically. Those are two good things in Elementor free. The pro version got 3 new things as well. So in Elementor Pro, we've got the mega menu. So that's been released now. And that's via the menu widget. So you'll be able to see it in the normal widgets. And that allows you to create those big expanding menus. It's basically another Elementor canvas that's put inside the menu container. All right, so you can experiment with that. They've got a new loop alternative template. So loop templates were released a couple of versions ago, and that allows you to build up your blog posts or whatever type of post you want in a grid system, the loop. And this way allows you to bring in an alternative template. So if you've got a template that's maybe got your featured image and then your title and excerpt and then maybe the author, you can bring in an additional template that kind of changes it around a bit. So you might with the title at the top and then a little bit of excerpts and then some other image in there. So now you can bring in these alternative templates into the same loop, and you can tell it where you want those templates to be applied. So you can say it after the second element, you can say it's every 2 elements, and then you can span columns. So there's a lot of flexibility. You don't have to just have this loop grid looking exactly the same anymore. You can kind of mash it up quite a bit. And with that loop, now you've got pre-designed loop container-based templates as well. So Elementor's going deep into these containers, the Flex containers, and you're going to see those rolled out quite a bit. It's still in beta mode because they're still tweaking it ever so slightly. But you're going to see more stuff is based on containers, and it's starting to come through with these templates. And especially the pre-designed loops, they're now all being redesigned with the containers in place. Okay, those are the changes. If you want to have a look at what's happening with Elementor, they have this roadmap, which is really good. It only came out a couple of months ago. But you can see what's pending, what's in progress, what's in beta, and what's been released. I tend to go there once a month just to see what's happening. If there's anything interesting that's coming up on the planning board or that. There is one interesting thing. Is it in the, yes, it is. It's in the roadmap, but that's an old screenshot. And the interesting thing that I found when I was checking it a few days ago is Elementor AI. So Elementor have, they've not brought it out yet. It's coming soon, but the developers are working on it in the back end. And it's basically Chat GTP. Can you see that video? Can everyone see the video there? I'll press play. Hopefully the audio will come through. Somebody can tell me if the audio is not working. Quite exciting. I'm looking forward to that. I'm not too sure about the scrolling marquee. That's a bit 1990s, but being able to generate code within a custom code, because not everyone's up to speed on animations and stuff like that. I think it's been really good. So that's using the ChatGTP API services, the ChatGTP version 4. And I think they're going to be using the, I can't remember what the image-based one is, but they're certainly working with that for the images, so you can generate your own custom images as well, image generation. So I'm not sure, there's no timescales for that. It just says coming soon, but you know, the containers were coming soon for a while as well. So it might be a little bit while that we have to wait on AI, but it certainly looks very interesting. I'll definitely jump and test on that when it does come out. Okay, so let's move on to the main topic. So Elementor versus Block Editor for writing blog posts. So the first question we get asked is, can you write blog posts in Elementor? And the answer is yes. That was an easy one. Of course, you can write your blog posts in Elementor. It's quite easy. If you want to write your blog posts in Elementor, you just make sure that you have checked the posts option, and this is in the settings general. So posts and pages, they should be checked by default, but if they aren't, and you don't get the option to edit your post, then come here to the settings and make sure that little checkbox is checked for posts. And you can check that for all your other custom post types. So if you're running something like WooCommerce, you'll see the products down there. So you can check on that, and then you can override your product templates using Elementor. Okay, so once you've done that, you can edit any post. So you click on the post, a new post, and it'll come into the main editor. And then you've got that big button at the top, Edit with Elementor. So you click that one, and it jumps into the Elementor editor that we all know. There's the new user interface, because this was just screenshot a couple of days ago for there. So now you can edit your blog post directly in Elementor. And then once you're done, once you've saved it, in the admin view, you can see the ones that have been edited with Elementor have that little dash Elementor that you're used to. So a very, very quick glance, you can see which of your blog posts have been edited in Elementor and which ones haven't. Okay, so let's get to some pros and cons for here. So writing blog posts in Elementor, I've looked at some of the pros, as the user interface is relatively easy to use. I think Elementor's got one of the better user interfaces for the page builders. It's quite intuitive. There's a lot of documentation and training videos online as well. So it's easy for new people to get up to scratch in writing blog posts. There's lots of features without additional plugins. And I think this is probably one of the go-to things that people like about these page builders, is that you don't have to install all these multiple plugins just to get things like testimonial or a slider and all that sort of good stuff. So definitely a pro for Elementor is you've got lots of features right at your hand when you're crafting your blog posts. The layout as well requires absolutely no coding skills. It's a drag and drop interface. It's been optimized, so it's easy for people to use, easy to find things, easy to customize the layout. So that's definitely a pro. Most widgets don't require any CSS skills. So if you're dragging your elements in, if it's a video, if it's a picture, if it's a header, then you've usually got enough controls on the widget to change things like color, font size, all the sort of attributes that come with it, without having to resort back to CSS code, which many bloggers probably wouldn't have a vast skill of CSS. There's you're free to break the template rules. So if you do have a theme installed and your blog post has a title and a featured image and author meta and then blah 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 blah, using Elementor, you can override that and just go crazy. You can go nuts with the template and you'll create something completely different than what you're kind of locked into with the template, the theme that you're in. So it might only come with a handful of templates, and I'm guessing many bloggers are not coders, so they wouldn't be able to change that. Whereas Elementor allows you to kind of break that layout. Easy to add, relatively easy to add dynamic data. This is the pro version only, so we're talking about dynamic tags. So things like author meta, maybe custom fields as well, to bring those in, again, without having to resort to codes or short codes or PHP stuff with those. And pretty much anything goes. So, if you want, you've basically got a blank template for creating your blog posts. So those are the list of pros that I could think about if you were to choose Elementor to write your blog posts in. So some of the cons, or maybe some of the negative things to consider would be the user interface itself is not optimized for writing content. So this is a visual page builder. Yes, it does have, you know, the components in there to write stuff and text and images, but it's not optimized for writing content. It is a page builder. It's very a visual builder, drag and drop and visual stuff. Another con is there's too many features. So they call this feature temptation. And so it's a bit like when I relate it back to when Microsoft released Word Art in PowerPoint. You know, as of before that, people just had a few options and presentations were pretty bland, but okay. And then Word Art and animations came out and just made people's eyes bleed. So just because there's a lot of features there doesn't mean you have to use them. But because there's a lot of features there, I'm guessing a lot of people will use them. So I would call that feature temptation. There's more asset files. So we're using Elementor because it's got all these widgets at hand. It's obviously loading in more stuff. It's loading in more JavaScript. It's loading in more CSS. It's loading in more files to support that functionality, whether you use it or not. Now, Elementor's done a really good job in cutting down the stuff that's loaded in unless you're actually using it. But still, you've got a lot of stuff there on hand, a lot of widgets on hand that have to be supported. So, you know, you're going to have more asset files and therefore a longer page loading if you're going to use Elementor to write your blog posts. Another thing could be, so in the pros, I said you're free to break the template layout that comes with the theme. But the con of that is that it breaks the template consistency. So if, depending on your reader type, if people are used to a particular format and way that you deliver your information, if you suddenly kind of change all that up, you might upset them, you might confuse them as well. You know, they might think they're not on the same site or it's been hacked or, you know, all sort of things. So there's just that psychology part. Yes, it's good to be able to break stuff every so often, but, you know, is it consistent with your branding and your voice and stuff like that? You do lock your content into Elementor. And this is one of the big things that people have been talking about with page builders. Certainly when Divi first came out, Divi uses a whole heap of shortcodes. They all use shortcodes. But when you try and revert your content back from a page builder into normal WordPress, if you're going to change your page builder or move to a theme, then you're definitely going to lose a lot of content that's inside the widgets. You're going to lose all that sort of stuff, and you're probably going to see short codes and things all over the place as well. Elementor does a good job of removing that stuff. Other systems like Divi and Visual Composer, they just kind of left the whole stuff in there. So when you migrated away from that system, your content was pretty much useless. So Elementor does a better job, but you're still going to lock yourself into losing some data if you do decide to migrate away from Elementor at some point. If Elementor fails, so if an update fails, you're going to have pretty ugly blog posts. They're going to revert back to whatever template, theme template you were using. So if your flow of your blog post has been designed with a kind of layout from Elementor, it might not make sense, you know, once Elementor breaks. And the last one, the pros, I said anything goes. I put that as a con as well. Anything goes, because, you know, people go crazy when you've got too many tools and layouts and things. So, yeah, so those are my kind of pros and cons. I'm not saying that you can't use Elementor to write blog posts. I'm not saying you should use Elementor for blog posts, but it's definitely some considerations there, some pros and cons. If you're a big visual builder, if you're kind of into layouts and visual descriptions and stories, then Elementor could be a good choice for you. So here we go. This is Elementor blogging. So this is probably what you do if you're using Elementor as blog posting. So you probably want to separate the screen as far as possible. Yes, you can edit within the visual box, but if you want to get all the controls and stuff, then you probably want to drag across the left window. So you've basically got the classic editor, which is the tiny MCE plugin, and then you've got access to all the toolbars and all the stuff there. So, and that's probably your easiest way of writing in Elementor. So, and again, you're jumping between block to block. So if you've got this component, you could do your whole blog post in that. But if you're hitting things up, you're changing things up, then you might be dragging images in there or a video, and then you cut another block as well. So that's your kind of editing experience within Elementor. And of course, there's the block editing, blogging experience as well. So it's more optimized for content. You've got your content there, you've got all your blocks, very kind of minimal on the left-hand side. And most of your interaction is within that kind of middle building block. So that's your two options, basically. Elementor blogging with all the different widgets. You want to pull that sidebar out and have the full control for the tiny MCE, or you just go all in on block editing, and that's your block editor. So that's the question: can you create blog posts in Elementor? I have another question: should you write blog posts in Elementor? So we've seen that it's technically possible. So I've answered that question: can you create blog posts in Elementor? And the answer is yes. So this question is kind of more philosophical, I guess. It's kind of more up to yourself. So the decision, of course, is up to you. But here are my thoughts on the question. So Elementor is a page designer that's evolved into a site builder. It's optimized for creating visual elements. It's a mix of templating and content, and that's ideal for pages. Pages generally provide specific company-related information, the structure of your website. They also try and sell you things. So think of landing pages with a call to action, product pages as well, and things like that. So when I'm thinking about should I write blog posts in Elementor versus the block editor, I'm thinking of the user intention for that particular bit of content. If the user's intending to, if I want the user to click on a call to action and maybe fill out the details for some opt-in, then I want highly visual and focused elements within that, guiding that person down to that call to action and to click it. So that to me is a very kind of visual thing, and that I definitely want to use something like Elementor to build that. I can kind of flesh out really, really good for that. But posts have a different user intention, and we're going to get into that now. So there's generally 4 ways that people search for stuff on the internet. The first one is navigational search intent. So what we're talking about with intent is when somebody sits in front of a browser, what's the end goal that they're trying to do? The first one is navigational search intent. It's probably among the most common and probably the least useful for about 99% of us website admins and digital marketers. Navigational search intent is basically intent for a person that wants to visit a specific website. They want to navigate to their target. So for example, if someone types in WP Engine into a Google search, 90% of the time, and I'm plucking numbers here, but 90% of the time, they're probably going to want to visit wpengine.com. Some may want to get some stats in the company, some might want to see reviews, but most people will tend to want to go to the website. Why don't they type in wpengine.com in the website? I don't know, maybe it's just part of laziness, who knows? But I certainly do this if I want to go to Netflix or something. I'll just type in Netflix, and I know it's going to come up as number 1, and then just click it for that. I do, it's just a nice and easy thing to do. So the result of this intent is a website, a page. So the website homepage, which needs to be very visually appealing. So you want to land on a homepage. I know you're there and know where to navigate from. So the search intention from this one, navigational search, is you're landing on a page, a homepage. The second one is informational or learning search intent. And now this one here, user search intent is to read more information about the subject that they've typed in. It's for research pretty much above all else. 99% of the content on my blog, for example, is targeted for informational queries. I teach you how to do things. I give you information about a topic rather than try and sell you my services or product. Those are blog posts. These users, they're at the top of your niche marketing funnel. They're usually looking for solutions to a particular problem, particular issues that they're having. Maybe it's a tutorial, maybe it's a how-to guide, how to set up WooCommerce, for example, or locked out of WordPress, how do I get back in? So they are not looking to buy stuff. People looking to buy stuff at the bottom of your marketing funnel, these people are right at the very top. They are searching, and that pretty much means to me a blog post. So the result of this intent is a post. While the visuals on a post are important, to tell the story, to explain stuff. It's the content of the post, which is the main intent of the user. The visuals are mostly secondary. So think of, you know, how to set up WooCommerce. There'd be a step 1, do this, download plugins. Step 2, activate plugins. Step 3, go to settings. Yes, there'd be some visuals there, but most of the content is words for those. And so this intent is for a post. We'll land on a post. Another one, third one, and there's only 4. This one is commercial consideration intent. And this is in the funnel stage where the user knows that what they need, and they're looking for a product or service to fulfill it. So they're doing deep research. They're not quite ready to purchase, but they're looking at those different options that are available and doing like a comparison. So they're doing research. For example, if someone's searching for a WordPress expert, they might find my site. Still, they might look at the competitors to compare and contrast what their services are, what their prices are, and other things that might influence their decision to buy. So these users are in the middle of your marketing funnel. They are looking for product and service reviews, case studies, brochures, client testimonials, demos, free trials, that sort of stuff. This is where you serve them with a keyword-focused landing page, with a call to action and probably an opt-in, which might be to do a demo, might be to download a product sheet, that sort of stuff. So deep research. So the result of this particular intent is a product landing page. So it could be like landing on a WooCommerce product. It could be landing on a services page that you provide on your website, or another call to action with an opt-in for those. So the result of this intent is a page with a really strong call to action. So it needs to be visually appealing to get the person to opt in. The last intent is transactional purchase search intent. So a transactional intent is, you probably guessed it, it's when a user is ready to buy, they want to do something, they want to purchase, they have their wallet in their hand, they're ready to go, they're prepared to plug those credit card numbers in and buy that product or service and get that shipped to them. Now, most of the time, this isn't it search. People were searched with commercial consideration intent, and then they find maybe a bookmark or something else, and then go through that. But these searches are typically going to yield e-commerce results with products or services. So that's what we call the transactional one. These users are at the bottom of your marketing funnel. They are ready to buy. They're ready to commit. They've went through the other steps. They went through number 3. They've had a look at all the different services and products. They compared them all, and they want your one, basically. And so they've done the research. Most likely, this is going to be a product, a sales page. We're going to use cart and checkout pages. So the result of this intent is a purchase process. So we're talking about, add to cart, checkout, and then purchase that, put in your credit card information. So these types of pages need to be functional, need to be transactional, and visually appealing with a good UI. So basically what I'm talking about with those, and it goes back to this, should you write a blog post in Elementor? When people are landing on our posts, the search intent is very different than if they're landing on the pages. They're expecting mainly text and content rather than a strong visual appeal or design. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be no visuals associated with the post, but in general, in my opinion, it's the content that's the king. It's the words that matter the most for posts. And we've talked about Elementor. Yes, you can write your blog post in Elementor, but it's kind of optimized for visual creation and layout, not really for content writing per se. So that's why, in my opinion, I use the block editor for writing my blog posts. Okay, that's a really long-winded answer to the questions, but hopefully showing those search intents, it's kind of got you thinking about, the way that people are landing on your website and what they're there for. Murray says, content is king, Bill Gates, 1996. Okay, so I want to kind of spin off in a separate direction. And I want to show you my process for blog posting. I get asked this a lot, so I thought I'd turn it into a little video. Okay, so here is my process for when I think about creating a blog post. The first thing that I do is keyword research. So I choose the keywords that I want to rank with, and that's in my industry and my niche. So you'd obviously do that for your industry and your niche. Google Keyword Planner is still the best tool to do this. It shows the search volumes. So you need to make sure that the keywords that you're looking for, people are actually searching for them, for those. Now you can use other tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz. I have a lifetime deal for software called Hike SEO. It's okay. It's got a decent keyword tool, but I always come back to the Google Keyword Planner. Now it's part of Google Ads, but you don't need to put any credit card details, but you do need to create an account to get access to it. But it's got the best information on hand for those. Steph says you can even store content off your server on Contentful, for example. Okay, I'm not quite sure what in context that is, but there we go. Next one is brainstorming. So what I do is I brainstorm my keywords and topics for 10 minutes. And so this is around the keywords for my ideal customer. It'd be interesting. I just write everything down. So 10 minutes, I've got my 10-minute timer. I do this quite often. So I've got my little 10-minute timer that I put on. So I just write down everything, every silly idea. Don't filter. I just write it all down. And once done, I spend a little bit of time, maybe 15, 20 minutes, filtering through all the topics to come up with the best ones. And I use a Google Sheet to track all these topic ideas. So here are some of the column names. I don't know if you're able to see that. It's a rather wide spreadsheet. So I've got publish date and day. I've got status. So that's, planned, scheduled, published, things like that. The title, which is going to be the post title, the blog intro. So that's my introduction. So I use a couple of AI tools to generate the best one for that. So that's the in-post blog intro. The next one is the Google description or excerpt. So that's the thing that's being picked up in the search engine results page. Again, I use a little bit of AI to craft that. And I've got an ideal length. So it tells me if the length of that is going to go over, it goes red, it goes orange if it's okay, it's green if it's perfect. And then things like the keywords that I'm focusing on, I've got a target persona that I select. So when I write in my blog post, I'm basically talking to this person. So I can select that particular persona. I've usually got an offer or call to action that's associated with that particular blog post, a particular category, and then things like social themes. So is it a Christmas? Is it an autumn? Is it a summer thing? And then the post URL, once it's published, the Google Docs URL, and then the rest of the stuff that goes off the screen. That's where I do like competition research. So I've got lists to the competition for those, and then other notes and things. So it's quite a long spreadsheet, but I track all my ideas, all my blog posts down there. So I suggest if it's something that interests you, that you probably create one similar to that. You can use any tool: Google Sheets, Excel, OpenOffice, Trello, Notion, whatever tool you want to use. Okay, the next step, and this is all before you even get to writing the blog post, is competition research. So I use Google and search for the top 5 organic blog post results that are coming back for your particular chosen keywords on that topic. I analyze the very first one carefully. Now, there's a reason it's number 1 on Google search engine result pages. So what you probably want to do is have a look at that number 1 article, have a look at the title, have a look at the H2 or the subheadings that are in there. It's probably something you want to cover in your article as well. Don't copy the article, but certainly have a look at the outline for the number 1 and take away all those subheadings. And you probably want to write something in your article about that as well. Have a look at the other 4 articles as well and perform what's called a gap analysis. So basically, what can you add to your post that's going to provide more and better quality information than these first 5 organic blog posts combined? The next step is the outline. So I jump into Google Docs here, and I'm outlining the blog post. Here's when I'm bringing in the titles from my research. So for the top number 1, I'll be bringing in the H2 subtitles I know I need to talk about, maybe reword them a little bit for SEO. But that's my next step, is the outline, get all that done. And then which ones are H2s, which ones are H3s, and then the end, which can either be summary, wrap up, conclusion, or next steps for those. So the next one is Google Docs. I think it's fantastic for creating stories. It's browser-based. You can access it from any device for those. So I definitely use Google Docs all the time. I've got Google Workspace. I use Grammarly as well because, well, I kind of suck at spelling and grammar. So that helps me correct that. But the one good thing I found about Grammarly is you can select a particular style or tone of writing. So depending on what you're writing about, depending on who you're writing to, you can set the style to be maybe serious or business professional or quirky or funny. And it'll guide you in your particular writing style to make that work. So once that's finished, 98% of the time when I'm copying from Google Docs, I post it into the block editor. 98% of the time it comes out fine. I might need to tweak some things like paddings, maybe set external links to open in a new tab, but that works pretty much seamlessly. I love the way that works. Next thing is tweak for SEO socials. So I use SEO Pro. So what I'm doing here is I'm checking the keyword placement, the density, the word count, the alt images, the keywords in the headings, the keywords in the subheadings. So that's all in the report. So I'm still in the block editor. So this is the SEO report down the bottom that analyzes all the content. Yoast does the same thing. Rank Math has the same thing as well. For those, I just have to use SEO Press Pro. So you're looking at Google meta descriptions, the excerpt, featured image. Make sure that they're all good for the socials as well. So most of these SEO plugins have got a little a preview that will show you what it's going to look like on Facebook, on Twitter, and the search engine results. Just make sure you got the right image, you got the right title, the right keywords that are going on there, and then publish or schedule. So when a post is published, I use Zapier to push the post through to social media publishing tool Buffer. So I use Buffer to schedule stuff because I've got analytics on that, so I can tell how many click-through rates are going on there. But the reason I use Zapier is I craft the blog posts to make sure that they are posting out to the social medias in the correct format. So for example, in Instagram, I can actually I've got a custom field. So if I want to post a carousel, then I add up all my images in there, up to 10 images. And then with Zapier, I then feed Buffer each of those 10 images for Instagram, and it'll publish that as a carousel. For Twitter, it's got a different ratio than for LinkedIn and Facebook, so I can choose the particular ratio. Again, I can have a custom field. I upload featured image just for Twitter, just for LinkedIn, that sort of stuff. And then once that's all in Buffer and it's ready to go, it schedules it out to places like my LinkedIn profile, my LinkedIn company page. I've got Facebook groups, 3 or 4 Facebook groups, Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff once it's formatted correctly. At the same time, when I'm publishing, I use a little bit of software called OneSignal. It's a SaaS software. It's a push notification for those. So you can sign up to that on my website. There's a little bell you sign up. So yeah, I want to get alerts whenever it gets published. So whenever a post is published, as well as getting pushed out to social media, this pushes out a browser notification. And I've got about 1,200 subscribers on my 0pointdevelopment.com website. So each time a blog post gets published, they get a little notification that pings up in the bottom right-hand side of the browser to say, oh, we'll post a new blog post, go and read it there. So that was a quick summary of my blog posting series, how I do that. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully it's given you some ideas about things that you can put into your particular blog post scheduling as well. So that's the end of the talk tonight. We've covered Elementor versus Block Editor, how it's done, some considerations, some pros, some cons, my thoughts on where you should write blog posts, and how I actually write blog posts all the way through to scheduling them and notifying people. If there's any questions, then you can unmute yourselves or drop it in chat. I'll have a look and see if there's any questions in the chat. And just before I shut down the slides, next month, I'm going to talk about Elementor forms. So we're going back to Elementor focused stuff for this meetup group. So I'm going to talk about Elementor forms, so what they are, what you can do, where stuff's stored, how you can extend them as a developer, and things like that. So everything you need to know about forms next month. There we go. So everyone, if you have any questions, unmute yourselves and ask me, and I'll have a look in the chat and see if there's any questions there.
Well, thanks for that. I'm going to jump off. My landlady's left her dog with me, and I need to take it for a walk. But thank you for your presentation tonight, and hopefully catch up with you face to face at one of the meetups.
That sounds good, Bob. Hopefully
Thank
see
you
you
very
there.
much. Yeah, take care.
Yeah. Steph says, okay, chat GPT, dev me a site. It's getting there. It's getting that way.
Yeah, the whole AI and chat GPT, and I saw the Elementor stuff coming before, but I'm not totally convinced. I'll wait and see what happens. But I saw a great cartoon the other day. It was in 2 frames. The first frame is a developer talking to some manager, I guess, saying, I've written this great AI to generate all this content from a bullet point. And then the next frame, there's another developer talking to another manager saying, I've written this great AI, can condense all this information down to a bullet point.
Yes. Yep. I think a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon. And there's certainly uses for it, but, you know,
Yeah, I think it could, I mean, I'll wait and see, but I think it could end up with the Squarespace phenomenon. And what I mean by that is I can look at a website now because I've seen so many of them. I can just look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's a Squarespace, and that's that particular template, because they all look the same. And I think the AI could go the same way, where it's just a collection of English nouns and verbs, and you go noun, verb, adjective, noun, you know, fill them in.
Yeah.
So, I'll wait and see.
Yeah. I think it's as good as the stuff you feed in. It's probably going to get a lot better. This is just the first incarnation of it. Yeah, I think it's going to get a lot smarter, a lot better. So yeah, watch this space. I'm quite interested in the image. So the one that I was thinking was, is it Midway Journey? I think that's what it's called. So you give it a few prompts. Mid-Journey, that's it, Mid-Journey. And you give it a few prompts and it can basically create an image for you. I think that'd be quite interesting because, you know, if you're generating your own AI images, you know, I'm just search through stock images and stuff, and it's probably going to be more relevant if you're feeding it keywords in there. So I'm quite interested to see what they come up with the image size of that.
Yeah, I was going to say the interesting thing was I was reading something only last week how modeling agencies are worried because one of the directions that AI is going for is that soon you won't actually have to employ a model. Now that they've got the ability to generate faces of people that don't exist, then you can pretty much just go and say, I want a model wearing these clothes, roughly looking this age, this ethnicity, you know, or a group of people doing this activity. And it will produce for you 5 images that you could then just go and choose from and know that that image is going to be totally unique because it's only being generated in that instance for you. So it's raising some very interesting points now that it doesn't actually need to use real people anymore in the situation.
Yeah, I agree. There's a few images that I saw on social media about people being arrested. They were completely fake. They were just AI generated as well. So yeah.
So they were like almost deep fake-ish kind of things.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it's coming along where it's going to be really difficult to distinguish real, you know, and that actually leads into a whole biosecurity issue. You'll probably know that I think at least one of the Australian services, when you call them up, you can leave a voice print that identifies you.
Yeah, Centrelink.
Centrelink, that's it. So people have been hacking that with voice AI. All you need, all you need is somebody to talk on a webinar or someone video on YouTube, and you can train these AI systems to sound like that person very well. So
there was the whole thing of saying if someone calls up and asks you a question, don't answer yes. Say correct. Yeah. Because if you say yes, then they've got you, and then they can just pretend to be you.
I know it's scary. It's scary. That's a whole other scary thing. Murray, you say with so many blocks that you can use with the WordPress builder, you don't see the need to use Elementor. Yeah.
Well, as in Elementor, I've always thought is fantastic for building the container. It's fantastic for building the templates. It just makes so much sense now that with Gutenberg bringing along things like columns, then you can put things side by side so easily.
Yeah.
You can embed so many different things, and I've even just been writing my own shortcodes. So if I need to embed something in that I can't. Like I've got a shortcode that will embed the contents of a PHP file so I can generate custom embeds and that kind of thing. So I don't need Elementor. And as you rightly pointed out, if Elementor breaks, then your blog posts are up the creek. But on top of that, if you choose to change themes as well, and I know a lot of people who had problems with this is when you mentioned about Divi, and how Divi is all just shortcodes. I know they're moving away from that, and I believe they're trying to make it so that it's not all shortcodes. But I mean, they've already burnt their bridges with so many communities because of that, and people being locked in. So just by keeping the content purely as something that's more generic, like with the WordPress editor, it means if you do need to move away for any reason, then your content's more likely to be more flexible to work with whatever you choose to package it in.
I agree. And if people are blogging, then the amount of content on their website is going to be blog posts by far rather than the structural content. Once somebody decides to blog post, even if they're doing once a week, after a few years, you can have more content as blog posts than you are with pages. So that's the majority of your website. And as you see, you don't want to be locked in to one particular method. So, I
use Elementor for everything. But for my blog posts, I just use the WordPress editor. I'll style it with a theme, an Elementor theme over, for a blog post.
Yeah.
But just on the topic of themes, Elementor is always going to work best with a very general theme. I've seen people buy a theme sizzle theme and then throw Elementor over the top of it and wonder why they're getting conflicts. It's like, guys, one or the other. I've used Elementor for some of my basic theme sites. I found with WooCommerce using Astra to be a better fit because a lot of the WooCommerce stuff's already pre-built and you just have to tweak it with Elementor.
Yep.
But, why? I mean, look, I found people that have taken a theme, a professional theme, and then they've got two different page builders going with it.
Yep.
And it's like some pages are in Elementor and some pages are in Divi, and it's like, what the hell do you think you're doing? How did this happen? So definitely horses for courses.
Yeah, I have a.
The other flip side is there's all these people saying, "Oh, we won't need page builders because we've got Gutenberg now," and it's like, no, I'm not so sure about that.
Gutenberg is content focused, and the page builders are visual or layout focused.
There's probably going to be in the future a merge of some sort, but we're down here. We're not there. It's
I've seen some decent efforts that have been done purely in WordPress. Like now that you can build out the header and the footer, it does look okay, but it's so far behind what the page builders can do now. I mean, it's going to mean there may be some people that may do it, but as you've pointed out, it's going to be quite a while, and they might create a merge or something like that. But if you want to use an amazing tool to design something, it's better to use something like, Microsoft Word as opposed to Notepad. They're very different tools. They've got a purpose in mind, and it's good to use the right tool for the right option. I'm just so glad that WordPress has been open enough to say, well, some people like one direction, some people like another direction. We're just going to support both and allow people to choose. Preferably, we want to concentrate on accessibility, getting information out to the most amount of people we can. And, and hopefully people respect the accessibility, whether they use a page builder or, just doing it purely with Gutenberg or the page.
Purists.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. The only thing that annoys me about the block editor is the interface still needs quite a lot of loving. So I think especially when some of the new things that have been bringing in with the full site editor, you know, when you're editing menus, you've got like this tiny 100 pixel width to try and, you know, it's such ridiculous. It's definitely not easier to do it than just going into your menus and typing out your menu like that. So I think there's some things that they're forcing in just to be a block, and then they're hashing out as they get feedback that comes in. But you know, it is a way of doing things, I guess. Push it out. You know, does it break something? Because Facebook did that early on, didn't they? They just threw out features and people didn't like it, or people did like it. So, you know, it's a good fast way of getting feedback back. So. But thank you both. Thank you all for coming along.
Yep, thank you, Will. That's been very interesting. Look forward to the forums next month. That should be interesting.
Yeah, excellent. We'll see you both there. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.